Hi everyone, welcome to the Redesigning School Counseling webinar for first-year schools. This is our final webinar in our webinar series, and this month's webinar will look at year-end tasks. My name is Sue Reynolds. I'm president of the American Student Achievement Institute. So at this point in our process, we are finished with the process. We have gotten ready way a year ago. We met with an advisory council to talk about what RSC was all about. We created a vision statement, goals, we expanded resources, we set priority goals, we identified root causes, put together activities that we wanted to do, and we have now prepared for those activities. So we're finished with the process. We have all of these products that we've developed along the way, and these products collectively define our school counseling program. Today we're going to look at just a few additional products that fall in these three areas: professionalism, advocacy, and the process documentation. So in addition to having a sound program, in order to earn the Ask a Ramp Award or the Indiana Gold Star Award, you need to be able to document that you're running a professional program, that you're working as a professional, that you advocate on behalf of your profession and your program, and that you used an advisory council and you work through a data-driven process. So first, let's talk about professionalism. One of the things that you'll be asked to do to submit is an assurances statement that is signed by both the lead school counselor and by the principal. This statement says basically that your school counseling program meets state rules and regulations, that those practicing as school counselors are licensed as school counselors. The program is coordinated by a licensed school counselor. The counselors adhere to the ASCA ethical standards. The counselors have private offices for confidentiality purposes, and that all of the exhibitions found in your school counseling program online accurately represent your school counseling program. Another part of professionalism is being involved in professional associations, and you'll be asked to upload some evidence that you are, or a member of your school counseling department is a member of a professional association. So you could scan a membership card and upload that, a membership fee receipt. What a lot of counselors will do will just scan a magazine cover or a newsletter cover that has a mailing label to them with their name on it, and if that magazine is or journal is made available to members, then that would be a way for you to prove that you're a member. So the professional association membership can be in all different kinds of organizations: ASCA, ACA, NACAC, ACTE, NEA, AFT, and it could also be in the state versions of these professional associations. So it could be in the Ohio School Counselor Association or the Indiana School Counselor Association. So lots of different ways that you can support your profession and be a professional, lots of different associations that you can join. So another part of being professional is keeping up to date in your profession. So you'll be asked to submit evidence that your counselors have been involved in professional development. So that could be that you're going to scan and upload an event program or a professional event receipt or a handout from some kind of professional development event that you've attended. Probably what makes the most sense for you, since you're participating in RSC, is to just upload a copy of one of the sets of materials that we've provided for you as evidence that you've participated in professional development through Redesigning School Counseling. There's a lot of other formats, though. If you didn't want to use RSC, professional development can be done through events. It can be done through reading journal articles, magazines, newsletters. It can be done by being part of school counseling listservs where ideas and are shared, and also it could be through a graduate school course. So lots of different ways to do professional development. In terms of looking for providers for professional developments, I think the professional associations, of course, would be the main provider, but there's also nonprofits that provide professional development. Our organization, the American Student Achievement Institute, the College Board, ACT, and also government agencies. Your State Department might provide professional development opportunities for school counselors, and of course colleges and universities. Funding for professional development can come from a lot of sources. In some schools, it's the school district that will provide funding to go to a conference or to participate in a course. But if not your school district, in a lot of communities, the community foundation is a source for funding for professional development. There may be a business that's part of your advisory council that would sponsor you to go to a professional development event, or a nonprofit. In Indiana, for example, the Indiana Youth Institute provides many grants for adults who work with kids to participate in professional development. Please note that some professional development sources are available at no cost, like participating in listserv, many webinars. RSC was available to you at no cost. So there's lots of different options for professional development and lots of different ways to pay for it. Okay, so that was about professionalism. Now let's look at program advocacy. We've talked a lot about advocacy in past months, but that's been about student advocacy. And now we're talking about advocating for your programs, for your school counseling program. So in terms of what your message might be, when I'm advocating on behalf of school counseling programs, I usually will talk about what the mission of the program is, who delivers the program, and who was involved in creating the program, the advisory council. I usually talk about how the program was developed and bring in information about the data from the student survey. So this is a data-driven program development. Then to overview the program, I will usually pass out or highlight the vision statement. I'll pass out a copy or highlight the program goals and the program services or the activities that you provide. And then finally, if your program has received any awards like the RAMP Award or the Indiana Gold Star Award, I would definitely talk about that too as part of your advocacy message. So lots of different formats for advocacy, and my guess is you're probably already doing these things. The school counseling website is an advocacy format. It helps you communicate to people what your program is all about. You could do presentations with your student body about the services that you provide. That's advocacy. Going to your school board is something that's part of advocacy. And in fact, in that one, for the Ask a RAMP Award, after your portfolio in Indiana is approved, for ASCA you're required to present your portfolio and your program to your school board. So that would be the final step when you're finished with everything. You can write articles for your local newspapers, brochures, program brochures, newsletters. There's just a lot of different formats that you can use to help people understand the services that you provide, what you're trying to do, and how kids benefit, and what your qualifications are as a school counselor. Okay, so that was advocacy. So we've talked about professional development and advocacy. Now we want to look at the process documentation. And there's a couple things that you'll be asked to do. One is to upload your agendas from your advisory council meetings, and then also the minutes from your advisory council meetings. And then there's a whole list of narrative questions. The narrative questions just ask you things like, please describe the counseling services provided by your school counseling program. What you write in there can just be a couple of sentences. It could just be, we provide crisis counseling, individual brief counseling, and group counseling for students that are referred by teachers or parents or self. So just, it doesn't have to be a long narrative. It's just basically, what are you doing? Then for some questions, ask about process. For example, one of the questions asks, how was your vision statement developed? We thought we would save you some time by putting in a suggested answer for you. If you've been involved in RSC and you did the process the way we suggested, we know what the process was. And so we have described that in an answer on your behalf just to save you time. I would make sure I've read that response and make sure it was exactly what happened in your school. If not, just edit it or just take it out altogether. Just delete it all and write your own response. Again, we were just trying to save you time when it was a process question. Okay, so those are the narrative questions. And now let's go online and look at the submissions for this month. Okay, so I'm logged in as Demo School, and one of the things the first thing I'll do is to click on the RSC Process tab, and then I'm down at the end of the year, so I'll look at the miscellaneous submissions, so the May submissions, and in here, I just do each step. So upload the Advisory Council agendas. This is an uploader button. When you click on that, it's going to open up all the files in your computer, and then you can find the one you want to upload and just upload. One question we always get is that there were 6 Advisory Council meetings, but the uploader will only allow you to upload one document. So what we suggest you do is just to scan the 6 agendas into one PDF file and then just upload that one PDF file that includes all 6 agendas. On minutes, the next one on review minutes, Advisory Council minutes, that's actually should be already done. So when I click on the Enter Edit icon, I can open up these and see if they're finished, and if not, I can quickly do them, but if they're all done, all finished, you're good to go. Okay, job description. We have given you a sample job description. I've already opened that up. Let me show you that. The sample job description talks about the qualifications for school counselors in your school, the primary functions, and the major responsibilities for the counselors in your school. So if you do not have a job description and you like this one as is, all you need to do is take our heading off the top and write the name of your school and just say school counseling job description. My guess is this won't be exactly what you want it to be, so we can just edit it as you see fit. Okay, that's job description. The individual counseling management agreements, that's a document that ASCA would like you to have on file, one for each counselor in your building. And I've already downloaded that, so let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is a counselor principal agreement. So you're saying student assignment. Students will be assigned to the counselors by grade level or alphabetical or whatever. Average number of students to be assigned to one counselor. The curriculum responsibilities, which counselors are assigned to the following areas for the purpose of developing and delivering the curriculum. Program delivery, what percentage of time will the counselors collectively spend in the following tasks? That you already have. When we talked about school counseling resources, you already know those percentages, so you can just drop them in there. Counselor availability, what the office hours are for the counselors, and then what is the support staff for the counselors. Then this question asks, are the counselors going to be compensated for work outside of contract hours? I think in most schools, counselors are not compensated for outside of contract hours, just as teachers are not compensated for the time that they spend grading papers outside of contract. However, in schools where there is a considerable amount of time spent outside of contract hours, it might be very appropriate to have a discussion with your administrator about how you will be compensated for that, either by duty pay or by comp time or a flex schedule, especially in some times of the year, like when high school and middle school counselors are in the middle of scheduling. It may, be good to have some flex time so that you can meet with parents in the evening and then come to school later in the morning. So just the purpose of this is just to open up that discussion with your principal. Funding, the annual budget for the program. Professional development. One or more school counselors will participate in the following professional development opportunities. Again, just to, in a lot of schools, no counselors ever participate in professional development. We just want you to ASCA wants you to have that discussion with your administrator. And then finally, how are school counselors going to network? How will the department network? Are you going to meet as the school counseling department? If so, how frequently? Are you going to have a chance to meet with the faculty? How frequently with the School Counseling Advisory Council, how frequently with the administration and with the school improvement team, which is something that we strongly recommend. And then with other groups where you need to network, it may be with a community mental health agency or whoever. So so this is the management agreement, and you just need to fill it out and upload it. Okay, then the assurances statement, I already went over that. You just download it and sign it and upload it. Program brochure, I noticed that the icon is missing here. We will give you some samples of the program brochure in case you don't have one so that you have something you can start with. And then just upload your brochure. Your public relations, this is your advocacy piece. So it might be, that you've given a presentation somewhere or publish an article in the newspaper, or lots of different options there. We talked about that earlier. So whatever you do, just upload it. Professional association membership, we talked about. Just upload that. Professional development, you can upload the proof that you've done that, or we've also given you a form that talks about how each school counselor in your department, what professional development they did. The narrative questions, I wanted to open that up and show that to you. Here's the narrative questions, and you can see there's quite a few. If you have more than one member of your steering team, what I would do is just divvy these up and just, if everybody does a few of them, you'll be in good shape. Remember, the answers to the questions do not have to be long narratives. Just very descriptive, concise questions are fine. And remember also that we have answered a lot of these for you so that you had a starting point, like here's vision statement. So, you've got an answer already in there that you can just start with. Okay, so that's the narrative, and that's done through the Enter Edit. Then finally, at the beginning of the year, we talked about how you could obtain Indiana Professional Growth Points to renew your license, or that you could earn IU credit through this. If you're interested in earning IU credit, please call us right away. And also you would need to submit the IU credit log before June 1st. So you can download both of those logs, fill them out, and submit to us. And then finally, let's look at the rubric items for these. Click on the rubric items. And most of these, the only rubric item is that it's present. So the agenda is present. The minutes, these are the same rubric items that you've been looking at every month. Job description, we want to make sure the job description includes the counselor's qualifications, their functions, and their responsibilities. So if you're using our sample as a starting point, all of that's in there. Individual management agreements is just that it's there for each counselor. Assurances statement signed by the counselor and the principal. The program brochure is present. The rest of these is just that there's evidence or something is present. Yeah, so that's it. Okay, so that's the May activities. Again, I think so much of that is already done. It's just a matter of collecting the documentation that shows that you're doing it and then just uploading. Okay, now at the very, very end, after everything is finished, there's two last steps. I guess there's three last steps. One step is that you're going to present this to your school board, present your program to your school board. The second step is that you're going to publish your school counseling program online. This is optional, but I think it's a really cool thing, so I want to show you that. I'm going to click on this, and actually when you come in, it will look like this. And it will say, publishing your school counseling program online will enable the public to view the following documents from your portfolio: your steering team roster, your advisory council roster, vision, program goals, priority goals, program activities, and program calendar. Before you decide if you want to see what this looks like, this is fairly new, so not a lot of schools have done this yet, but some schools have found it, which is cool. I'm going to go ahead and just click on one of these so you can open it up. When the public goes in, they will not see these tabs over here on the left. The only reason these tabs are here for me is because I'm logged in. Okay, so I'm going to click just on, just pick Perry Central, and there's a little blurb about how the program was developed, and then the public could go in and say, okay, who's on the advisory council? They could see that. They can go in and click and see your vision statement. They can, see your activities. I love this report. When the public goes into this, or your school board or whatever, look at all the activities that this school counseling program is doing, and this is what yours will look like too. When you think about all the things that school counselors do, it's just huge. So I love that report. It makes it very clear that if you decide to reduce the number of school counselors in your building, you are reducing programming. So I think that's kind of interesting. And then the other thing that I think is nice to share with the public is your program calendar. And again, that just shows how busy you are. I think it's nice for administrators to see this. It shows that, you may not be the best person to give a non-program task to because you've got your hands full doing all these other things each month. So I just think this is a nice way to advocate for your program, is to just show people, what your program is all about. So if you do decide that you want to publish your portfolio online, it's very easy to do. You just click publish, and now it's done. And now when I went to this list of published portfolios, your school would be there too. Then let me go back to Perry Central. What a lot of schools will do is they'll put a link on their school's website to the address up here where their school counseling program is found. So it's just a way to let people see what you're doing. It would be another advocacy thing. Okay, then the very last thing, let me go back to the process page. The very last thing to do, if you are in Indiana school, is to submit your portfolio to the Indiana Department of Education. And that's very easy to do. All you do is you hit this button and that's it. So don't hit that button till you're ready. And I would strongly suggest that you review all of the rubric items before you submit, because the reviewers are going to be looking at every single one of those rubric items, and you want to make sure that you've got them all covered so you aren't asked to revise your work. If you're a school outside of Indiana, your next step would be to go to the ASCA website and to open the part that talks about RAMP portfolio submission, and then just begin doing that work. The Indiana deadline is June 30th, and if you submit by June 30th, that's good. And then the ASCA RAMP deadline is October 15th. Okay, so I'm going to talk to the Indiana schools for a minute about what's going to happen after you click this button. So I'm going to go back online, and here's what happens. So after your portfolio is complete, you're going to submit the portfolio for the various awards. We just said this: June 30th for the Indiana Gold Star, October 15th for RAMP. And I might mention, if you're an Indiana school, after you get accepted for Gold Star, you'll get a set of instructions for how to do RAMP. When you go into the, what the instructions will say is that when you go into the Ask a RAMP pages to submit, there's a page that says, are you an Indiana school? And if you say yes, and then it will say, do you have the Gold Star Award? And then you say yes, and then there's a page that DOE is going to send you that verifies that you'll submit. And then it's going to jump you forward to the end of the application, so you don't have to submit anything to ASCA for RAMP because you've already submitted it to DOE for Gold Star. Okay, now, so after, in Indiana, after you submit, after you click that button and you submit, that will tell DOE that you would like a review. So just make sure you do that before June 30th. Then the reviewers will get together in the middle of July. I will train them on how to use the online system to review your work. I will not do any reviews. I only do the training. And the reviewers then have an online system that looks like this, and I wanted to show you how this would work. You'll see that right now we're opened up as Bedford North Lawrence High School. Here are all the documents that are part of Bedford North Lawrence's portfolio, and here are the rubric items for each of those. Then over on the right, there is an initial reviewer who has to go through and document that they could find every single rubric item in your portfolio. And then after the initial reviewer reviews, then there's a second reviewer called the verification reviewer that comes in and does the same review. If these two people disagree, then they have to talk it out. And they'll try to convince each other it meets criteria or it does not meet criteria. Then, if they can't agree still, then a third reviewer will come in to be the tiebreaker. So at least two people will review your portfolio and possibly a third. So as the reviewers go through, they will open the report. So this will just open up that part on your website, and then they'll say, am I seeing at least two members on the steering team? Yes, click. So then the next thing they'll do is they'll come over here and they'll give this part of your portfolio a status. It's either going to say meets criteria or it'll say see comment, or I'm sorry, it'll say meets criteria or needs revision. If it says needs revision, then they have to add a comment that tells you what's wrong with it and gives you very concrete instructions for what to revise. Okay, so I wanted to show you an example of what it looks like when it needs to be revised. Oops, I forgot. Before I do that, let me do one other thing. If I were to scroll down on this page, the very last thing that the verification, the second reviewer, does is they check off one of these two boxes. It says this school has not met all of the requirements for Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award. Send the please revise email to the steering team now. And that please revise email, it comes out of the system, but it'll appear when it comes into your inbox as though it's coming from Amanda Cullen at DOE. Or they're going to check the box that says the school has met all the requirements. Please send the congratulations email to the steering team now. So if you get the please revise, it's going to give you instructions for how to revise, a deadline for revising, and it will also give you a reviewer report so you can see what you need to do. If you get the congratulations email, it's going to say here's instructions for how to actually get your plaque and your award, and then from Indiana at the ISCA conference, and then it will also say here's instructions for how to submit your indication to ASCA that you would like to have the RAMP award. So when they as soon as they hit save, those reviewers, those emails go out. The review is going to start in mid-July, and DOE has given the reviewers 2 weeks, is giving the reviewers 2 weeks to do all the reviews. So within the last 2 weeks of July, you should know the status of your portfolio. Okay, now let's say that you get the email that says you need to do some revisions. There will be a link in that email to the reviewer report, here's what the reviewer report looks like. It basically says, here's the segment, the part of the portfolio. In this case, it meets criteria. But if it doesn't meet criteria, then it's going to look like this. This is vision statement. Originally, when the school turned this in and it was reviewed, not all of these indicators, rubric items, were checked. There were problems. And so the reviewer wrote a comment that said, you're missing the ASCA ideals, the focus on prevention, and then created some other things as well, or said some other things as well. So what the school did then is it made the corrections, it resubmitted the work to DOE. DOE did a second review, and this time they said, okay, this was revised, and now it was approved on later in that month, on 7/31. So when it was resubmitted, then the reviewers were able to check off all the rubric items. So if your portfolio is not fully approved, you need to go into that reviewer report and read those comments, see which rubric items are not checked off, and then submit. All the resubmissions go to Amanda Cullen at DOE. She does all the re-reviews. So if you have questions on the re-reviews, give Amanda a call at DOE. Okay, so that's it in terms of how to get your portfolio reviewed. Do not be surprised if your portfolio needs revisions. If you think about all of those rubric items, there's chances are you may have forgotten one, or you misinterpreted one, or you met one but the reviewer can't find where you met it, didn't really understand what you were saying. It is not uncommon for schools to have to do some minor reviews. That said, I can only think of one time where we had reviews that were so major that the school chose not to make the revisions. So out of 180 schools that have done this, there's only been one school that was not approved for Gold Star. And they could have been if they wanted to do the revisions, but they just decided that they were not going to do the revisions. So my biggest advice is to read all the rubric items and make sure you got them all in before you submit. Okay, now I want to talk about the next couple of years very briefly, just to kind of give you a heads up what's happening. I can guarantee you this will never be as time-consuming as it was this year, because you're never going to start from scratch again. So basically with RSC, with Gold Star, and with RAMP, it's a 3-year rotation. So it's 1 year on, 2 years off, 1 year's on, 2 years off. So your year on was 2013, 2014. So that was your big year to create your first portfolio. Next year, 14-15, is an off year for you. What we're going to suggest that you do in your off year is to survey your students in the spring and then have one meeting with your advisory council in the summer. You'll give them the new student data and just say, given this new data, do our goals still make sense? And do the activities that we wrote a year ago still make sense? And if the advisory council says yes, then you don't have to make any revisions at all. It's just, full speed ahead, and you've got, you're on the right track. We will provide one webinar in the spring to help you set up and get prepared for that advisory council meeting in the summer. And we'll send you emails when that's coming up. So it's a very quick meeting, and chances are a year after you wrote the original goals and activities, there won't be any revisions. But just in case, it's good to look at that data every year. Then the second off year for you is 15-16, and same thing. You'll do the Learn More survey again in the spring, meet with your advisory council in the summer, look at the data, and just say, does the plan that we wrote 2 years ago still make sense? And chances are you'll still need to be working on the same areas. There won't be any tweaking to do. So the year after that, 16-17, is your renewal year. And in that year, we'll have monthly webinars for most of the year. We don't have webinars in February and March. but the rest of the year we will. But it's so different than what you've done this year because we're just updating things. So when it's time to talk to your advisory council about your vision statement, we're just going to hand them a copy of your current vision statement and say, is this still okay? When it's time to update your priority goals, we're going to hand them a copy of their current student data and the priority goals and just say, are these still okay? Everything will already be in the system, so if things don't change, it's already there. You don't need to make any edits. It's there. So it will never be as time-consuming as it was this year. After this year is just about looking at new student data and then just saying, does the plan still make sense, or do we need to change things? And it may be that things do need to change. Maybe 3 years from now you're going to have a huge attendance issue in your school that you don't have right now. And so maybe 3 years from now you're going to need to adjust, and one of your priority goals is about choosing to come to school. But that's basically how it is. 1 year on, 2 years off, 1 year on, 2 years off. So that said, that concludes all of our webinars for our first year schools doing Redesigning School Counseling. It is a joy for us to do this work. I hope you've been able to see throughout the year that this is a work of passion for us. We love being able to help school counselors develop school counseling programs that truly help kids make decisions that are going to impact achievement and therefore impact their lives. So thank you so much, and as always, don't forget that you make a difference in the lives of the young people in your school.